The flash of the camera makes Victoria Chen's jaw tighten. But she keeps her smile perfectly calibrated, warm enough to seem genuine, controlled enough to maintain authority. This is her 43rd charity event this quarter, and she's learned exactly how many teeth to show. "Mrs. Chen, could you hold up the donation check a bit higher?" The photographer from Boston Business Journal gestures enthusiastically. "Perfect! This is going to be a fantastic cover story." Victoria complies, though the oversized novelty check for $2 million feels absurd in her hands. She wired the actual funds to Harbor Hope Shelter 3 weeks ago. This photo op is purely Jennifer's idea. Her publicist insisted that Victoria needed to humanize her brand after the Tech Insider article called her the Ice Queen of Artificial Intelligence. "Now, if we could get a shot of you actually inside the shelter, interacting with residents?" Jennifer appears at her elbow, clipboard clutched to her chest. "Authentic connection, remember?" The board wants to see the real Victoria Chen. The real Victoria Chen wants to be in her corner office on the 42nd floor of One International Place, reviewing the Nakamura merger documents that will expand Chen Innovations into the Asian market. But the company's stock dropped 3 points after that disastrous earnings call, where she told a reporter that work-life balance is a luxury for people without ambition. The board made it clear: fix your image, or we'll find someone who can. 15 minutes, Victoria says, handing the ridiculous check to an assistant. "I have 4 o'clock. With Singapore." Jennifer's face lights up like she just closed a billion-dollar deal. "You won't regret this, Victoria." Compassionate side. Victoria doesn't have a compassionate side anymore. She buried it 3 years ago, when cancer took her husband Michael. And whatever remained disappeared 6 months later, when Emma, her only child, her baby girl, walked out of their Beacon Hill penthouse at 16 years old and never came back. But that was before. This is business. Harbor Hope Shelter sits on a quiet street in Boston's South End, wedged between a laundromat and a community health clinic. The building is old brick, the kind that holds cold even in summer. And when Victoria steps through the entrance, the smell hits her immediately. Industrial cleaner, trying to mask the scent of too many people living in too little space. Beneath that, something else. Desperation, maybe, or just the particular sadness that comes from having nowhere else to go. The director, a wiry woman named Carol Martinez, with gray-streaked hair pulled into a practical bun and ink stains on her fingers, extends her hand. Her grip is firm, her smile tired but genuine. "Mrs. Chen, thank you so much for coming. Your donation is going to change lives." Carol's voice carries the exhausted pride of someone who's been fighting an unwinnable war for too long. "We serve about 200 women and children each month. Most are fleeing domestic violence or dealing with addiction recovery. Some are just one paycheck away from homelessness, and that check never came." Victoria nods, only half listening. She's heard variations of this speech at a dozen different shelters, community centers, and food banks over the past month. They all need opportunities. They all need more funding. They all have heartbreaking stories that are supposed to make her feel something other than the constant hollow ache that's lived in her chest since Emma left. 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days. That's how long it's been since Victoria last saw her daughter's face. "The women's wing is through here," Carol continues, leading them down a corridor with fluorescent lights that buzz faintly overhead. The walls are poneglace, painted a cheerful yellow that probably seemed like a good idea once, but now just looks tired. "Some of our residents volunteer with sorting donations and meal prep. It helps them build structure, gives them a sense of purpose while they're getting back on their feet. If you're enjoying this story, so far, Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Carol pushes open a heavy door, and they step into a large room that smells like detergent and cardboard. Rolling racks of donated clothes. Line 1. Wall. Folding tables are scattered throughout the space, covered with bins of sorted items, shirts, pants, children's clothes, organized by size. A handful of women work quietly, their hands moving with the kind of efficiency that comes from repetitive task. Victoria's gaze sweeps the room, professionally, taking in details she'll need to recall later when the board asks about her visit. She's already composing the email in her head. Impressed by the organization's operational efficiency. Residents actively engaged in meaningful work. Recommend continued funding with emphasis on, and then her brain stops working because across the room, partially hidden behind a rolling rack of winter coats, a young woman is folding t-shirts. She's thin, not just thin, but gaunt. The kind of thinness that speaks of missed meals and stress that eats at you from the inside. Dark hair falls around her face in a messy ponytail that needs washing. She wears an oversized gray hoodie, too big for her frame, and jeans with holes in the knees that aren't the fashionable kind. Her hands tremble slightly as they smooth fabric, and she keeps her head down, focused intently on her task like, if she looks up, the world might shatter around her. Those hands. Victoria knows those hands. She held them on the first day of kindergarten when Emma was 5 and terrified of the big school with all the strange children. She bandaged them after Emma fell off her bicycle, learning to ride without training wheels. She watched them fly across piano keys during recitals. She was usually too busy to attend, always checking her phone in the back row, always leaving early to take calls. Emma. The room tilts sideways. Sound becomes distant and muffled, like Victoria's underwater and drowning. Her mouth opens, but no words come out. Her heart hammers against her ribs, so hard she thinks they might crack, might splinter into pieces that will puncture her lungs and kill her right here on this stained linoleum floor. Emma, here, less than 3 miles from the penthouse, alive. Victoria's legs move without her permission, carrying her forward. Her Louboutins click against the floor, click, click, click each step, a gunshot in the relative quiet. She's vaguely aware of Carol still talking beside her. Jennifer saying something about lighting for photos, but none of it matters because Emma is right there, and Victoria is going to touch her, hold her. Never let her go again. A man steps into her path. He materializes so suddenly that Victoria nearly collides with him. He's tall, maybe 6 feet, late 30s, with dark hair graying at the temples and the kind of solid build that comes from actual physical work. Not expensive personal trainers and boutique gyms. His skin is tan, lined around the eyes in a way that suggests he's spent time outdoors, time squinting into the sun. He wears a navy blue maintenance uniform with Harbor Hope embroidered on the left breast, and Marcus stitched above the pocket. In his hands, he holds a mop and bucket. A janitor. This janitor is blocking her way. Ma'am. His voice is low, quiet, but there's steel underneath the courtesy. I need you to walk away. Right now. Victoria stares at him, her brain struggling to process the words. They don't make sense. Nothing makes sense. Excuse me? Turn around. Marcus doesn't move, doesn't blink. His dark eyes, almost black in this fluorescent light, lock onto hers with an intensity that makes Victoria instinctively take a step back. Walk back through that door. She's not ready. He means Emma. This janitor knows who Emma is. Victoria's entire body goes cold and then hot. Adrenaline flooding her system. That's my daughter. Get out of my way. No. The word hangs in the air between them, impossible and absolute. Around them, the room has gone quiet. The other, women have stopped working, watching this confrontation with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. Carol's hand touches Victoria's elbow, her voice confused. Mrs. Chen, what's happening? Do you know? Do you have any idea who I am? Victoria's voice comes out sharp enough to cut. This is the voice she uses in boardrooms when someone challenges her. The voice that's closed billion-dollar deals and made grown men reconsider their positions. Victoria Chen. Marcus's expression doesn't change. He might as well be reciting her Wikipedia page for all the emotion in his voice. Chief Executive Officer of Chen Innovations. Net worth approximately $3.2 billion. You've donated to this shelter for 4 years, but never once set foot inside until today. He pauses, and something flickers in his eyes, not quite contempt, but close. And yes, ma'am, I know, she's your daughter. Emma told me everything about you, Mrs. Chen. Every word you said to her, every promise you broke, every time you chose your company over her, every single time she needed her mother and got your assistant instead. The floor disappears beneath Victoria's feet. The air leaves the room. She can't breathe, can't think, can't do anything but stare at this man who's speaking truths she's spent 3 years running from. If you take one more step toward that girl, Marcus continues, his voice still quiet, but carrying the weight of absolute conviction, she will run. And this time, Mrs. Chen, you'll never find her. Do you understand me? Never. Clean? The word comes out as a whisper, and Victoria hates how small her voice sounds. You said she's been clean. Clean from what? Something shifts in Marcus's expression. Not pity exactly, but recognition of just how little Victoria knows about her own daughter's life. About the girl who lived under her roof for 16 years before disappearing into the night. You should ask yourself, Marcus says slowly, why you don't know the answer to that question. Behind him, Emma continues folding clothes. Her shoulders hunched, her body language screaming, "Don't see me, don't notice me. Please, just let me disappear." She hasn't looked up. Maybe she can feel Victoria's presence like a storm rolling in, gathering darkness on the horizon. Maybe she's deliberately not looking, because if she does, if their eyes meet, across this room, everything she's built here will collapse. How long? Victoria forces the words out through a throat that feels like it's closing. How long has she been here? 18 months. 18 months. A year and a half. Emma has been living in this shelter, sleeping on a cot, in a shared room, eating donated food, sorting through strangers' cast-off clothes for 18 months, while Victoria threw millions at private investigators who searched through 3 continents, checked every hospital and morgue in North America, followed leads that went nowhere. While Victoria lay, awake in that empty penthouse, staring at Emma's bedroom door, wondering if her daughter was alive or dead or suffering somewhere Victoria couldn't reach. Emma was here, 3 miles away, 20 minutes in traffic. I need to talk to her. Victoria tries to step around Marcus, but he shifts his weight to block her path. He's not aggressive about it, doesn't touch her, but his body language is clear. You're not getting past me. What you need, Marcus says, his tone firm but not unkind, is to leave. Give her space. Let me talk to her first. Prepare her for this. And then, maybe, if she agrees, we can arrange something. But not like this, Mrs. Chen. Not with cameras and publicists and your people hovering around, treating this place like a photo opportunity. She's my daughter. Victoria's voice cracks on the last word. then act like her mother instead of her CEO. The words hit Victoria like a physical blow, like Marcus just punched her in the chest and knocked all the air from her lungs. Behind her, Jennifer is whispering urgently to Carol, asking confused questions about what's happening, who this is, why everyone's upset. The other women in the room are watching with hostility now, protective of Emma. This girl they clearly know and care about, while Victoria, her own mother, is a stranger who needs to be blocked. Victoria looks past Marcus, studying Emma with a desperation that physically hurts, that makes her chest ache, and her throat close, and her eyes burn. With tears she hasn't allowed herself to cry in 3 years. Her baby girl looks so small, so fragile, like she might blow away in a strong wind, might crumble into dust if someone breathed on her wrong. When did she get so thin? When did those shadows appear under her eyes, dark circles that speak of sleepless nights and pain that won't quit? How did Victoria not know her daughter was suffering like this? Because you weren't there to know, a voice whispers in her head. Because you were never there. Please. The word tastes foreign in Victoria's mouth. She can't remember the last time she begged for anything. She built an empire by demanding, by taking, by refusing to accept no as an answer. But she's begging now, and she doesn't care who sees it. Please let me I just want to see her. I don't have to talk to her. I just need to. Please. Marcus studies her for a long moment. Victoria sees him taking in her desperation, weighing it against whatever Emma has told him about her mother. Whatever stories Emma shared in the 18 months she's been here, pouring out her pain to this janitor who apparently became more family to her than Victoria ever was. You can stay, Marcus says finally, and Victoria's knees nearly buckle with relief. But you keep your distance. You don't approach her. You don't speak to her. You don't do anything that might upset her or make her feel unsafe. You're here to tour the facility with Director Martinez. That's all. Do you understand me? Victoria nods, not trusting her voice. And your photographer leaves. Now, this stops being a PR event this instant, or you leave with her. Victoria? Jennifer appears at her elbow, her perfectly made-up face creased with concern and growing indignation. What's going on? Who is this guy? Should I call security? Victoria turns to her publicist. Jennifer has worked for her for 6 years, has managed every aspect of Victoria's public image, has crafted the narrative of Victoria Chen as a brilliant innovator, a self-made success story, a woman who built something from nothing through sheer force of will. Jennifer knows Victoria's schedule better than Victoria does, knows what she eats for breakfast, knows how she takes her coffee, but Jennifer doesn't know about Emma. No one at Chen Innovations knows about Emma. Victoria erased her daughter from her professional life like she never existed. Too ashamed to admit she'd failed so completely at the one job that mattered more than any board meeting or earnings report. Jennifer, go back to the office. Victoria's voice is steady, cold, the voice she uses to fire executives who've disappointed her. Cancel my doors. 4 o'clock. Cancel everything for the rest of the day. Tell the board I had a family emergency. But Victoria, the Singapore deal. Now, Jennifer's mouth opens and closes. She's smart enough to recognize a non-negotiable order when she hears one, even if she doesn't understand it. She gathers her things, shoots one last confused glance at Marcus, and retreats down the corridor with her assistant scrambling behind her, both of them whispering furiously. The click of the door closing echoes through the room. Final. Like a cell door locking, sealing Victoria into this moment with no escape route. She's alone now, as alone as she can be in a room full of strangers and one daughter who doesn't know she's there. Or maybe Emma knows. Maybe she felt the exact moment her mother walked into the room. The way you can feel a storm coming before the first drop of rain falls. What? Now, Victoria asks quietly. Marcus leans his mop against the wall and crosses his arms over his chest. Now you finish the tour. You see the facility. Meet some of the women we serve here. Learn what this place actually does. You do what you came here to do, but without the cameras and the performance. And Emma? Emma keeps folding clothes. When she's done with her shift, I'll tell her you were here. I'll tell her you stayed, that you listened, that you respected her boundaries, and then she'll decide if she wants to see you. What if she says no? Marcus meets her eyes, and Victoria sees the answer there before he speaks it. Then you come back tomorrow, and you try again, and the day after that, and the day after that, for as long as it takes. That's what parents do, Mrs. Chen. They show up. They keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when they're not wanted, until the person they love knows they're not going anywhere. Can you do that? Victoria's throat tightens. She wants to argue, to pull rank, to do something, anything that will give her control over this situation spinning wildly beyond her grasp. But she looks at Emma again, still folding, still hiding, still so terribly, heartbreakingly small, and realizes that control is exactly what drove her daughter away in the first place. Control, and the inability to see that love, requires presence, not just provision. Yes, Victoria whispers. Yes, I can do that. Marcus nods once, a sharp dip of his chin that might be approval or might just be acknowledgement. He moves aside, just enough to let Victoria pass, but stays close enough that his message is clear. I'm watching you. One wrong move, and this is over. Carol clears her throat, visibly trying to reassemble her professional demeanor after witnessing whatever the hell just happened. Well, should we continue with the tour? Victoria forces herself to turn away from Emma. It's the hardest thing she's done since watching Michael's casket lowered into the ground. Harder than burying her husband. Harder than waking up every morning in that empty penthouse, knowing her daughter might be dead in a ditch somewhere. She follows Carol deeper into the shelter, past the laundry room and the communal kitchen, and the childcare center where toddlers play with donated toys under the watchful eyes of volunteers. Carol talks about capacity issues and funding shortfalls and success stories. Women who came here broken and left with jobs, apartments, hope. Victoria nods and asks appropriate questions, playing the role of interested benefactor while her entire attention remains fixed on the room behind her. She can hear it still, the soft rustle of fabric being folded, the quiet murmur of women talking, and underneath it all, the simple fact of Emma's presence. Her daughter is alive. Her daughter is here. And a janitor Victoria never met until 10 minutes ago is the only thing standing between her, second chance she doesn't deserve, but desperately needs. The tour takes 45 minutes, but it feels like hours. Victoria follows Carol through every room, meets women whose names she'll forget by tomorrow, nods at stories of hardship and recovery that all blur together into a single narrative of struggle. She's aware of every word she speaks, every expression on her face, because somewhere behind her, Marcus is watching, evaluating, deciding if she deserves even the smallest chance. When they finally circle back to the donation sorting room, Emma is gone. Victoria's chest constricts so tightly she can't breathe. Gone. Emma was here, and now she's not. And Victoria missed her chance, wasted it on a pointless tour, when she should have fought harder, should have pushed past Marcus, should have. She finished her shift, Marcus appears beside Victoria, his voice low enough that Carol can't hear. She's in the kitchen helping prep dinner. You can see her through that window, if you're quiet about it. He points to a small window set into the wall. The kind kitchens have so servers can see when food's ready. Victoria moves toward it like she's in a dream, her legs carrying her forward without conscious thought. Through the smudged glass, she can see Emma standing at a large industrial sink, washing vegetables. She's changed into a different hoodie, this one black instead of gray, and tied an apron around her too thin waist. Her hair is still in that messy ponytail. She's talking to an older woman beside her, and as Victoria watches, Emma smiles. It's a small smile, barely there, but it transforms her face. For just a moment, Victoria can see the girl Emma used to be, the one who laughed easily, who filled their Beacon Hill home with music, terrible jokes, who used to burst into Victoria's home office just to show her a drawing or share something funny that happened at school. Before Michael got sick, before Victoria became someone who measured her worth in quarterly earnings instead of her daughter's happiness. Before everything fell apart. She smiles sometimes now, Marcus says quietly, standing just behind Victoria's shoulder. Took about 4 months before we saw the first real one. She was so shut down when she arrived here, so convinced she didn't deserve to take up space or be seen. But she's been working on it. Getting better. Victoria can't take her eyes off Emma. What happened to her? The question comes out broken, barely a whisper. Please, I need to know what happened after she left. Marcus is silent for a long moment, and Victoria thinks he's going to refuse. Then he sighs, a heavy sound that carries the weight of too many stories, too many broken people he's tried to help. Not here, he says. The shift changes in 20 minutes. Meet me at the coffee shop 2 blocks south, Murphy's. Come alone. No assistants, no drivers, no one. If I see anyone with you, I walk away, and you don't get another chance. Understood? Victoria nods, still staring through the window at her daughter. Emma is laughing now at something the older woman said, and the sound, even muffled through glass and distance, makes Victoria's heart crack wide open. Why are you doing this? She asks Marcus. Why are you helping me? I'm not helping you, Marcus says flatly. I'm helping Emma. She deserves to make an informed choice about whether she wants her mother in her life. That means you get one conversation with me where I tell you what you need to know. What you do with that information is up to you. But if you use it to hurt her, if you push too hard or try to force something she's not ready for, I will make sure you never get within 100 feet of her again. Are we clear? W. Not Talvar. She will not Talavart. Crystal clear. Good. Marcus steps back from the window. Murphy's. 20 minutes. Don't be late. Murphy's Coffee Shop is exactly the kind of place Victoria never goes cramped and loud. With mismatched furniture and a chalkboard menu that hasn't been updated in years. The air smells like burnt espresso, and something sweet baking in the back. Every table is full of students with laptops, construction workers, on break, mothers with strollers parked beside them. Victoria feels completely out of place in her Armani suit and heels that cost more than most of these people make in a month. She orders a black coffee she doesn't want and takes a table in the back corner. Wood surface. She turned off her notifications before walking in. For the first time in 3 years, Chen Innovations will have to survive without her for a few hours. Marcus arrives exactly 20 minutes after she does. He's changed out of his uniform into jeans and a plain gray Henley, and he carries a battered backpack over one shoulder. He orders something complicated that involves extra shots and oat milk, then sits across from Victoria without preamble. Before I tell you anything, he says, pulling a worn notebook from his backpack, you need to understand something. I'm a licensed social worker. I left the field 8 years ago, but I still maintain my credentials. I work at Harbor Hope as maintenance because the pay is stable and the hours let me be there for my daughter. But Emma knows about my background, and she's given me permission to work with her in an informal capacity. What I'm about to tell you isn't breaking confidentiality because she's an adult, and she explicitly told me I could share her story with you if you ever showed up. Do you understand? Victoria nods, her throat too tight to speak. Marcus opens his notebook to a page covered in neat handwriting. Emma arrived at Harbor Hope on March 15, 2023, 18 months ago. She was 17 years old, pregnant, and addicted to opioids. The world stops spinning. Pregnant? Addicted? 17. She was 6 months along when she came in, Marcus continues, his voice clinical now, like he's presenting a case study instead of destroying Victoria's world. The pregnancy was unplanned. The father was a guy she met 3 months after leaving your house. Someone older who said all the right things and got her hooked on pills to keep her compliant. By the time she realized what was happening, she was dependent, and he was gone. Victoria's hands shake so badly, she has to clench them into fists on the table. The baby. Em hands to down. The baby. She lost the baby at 7 months. Premature labor brought on by malnutrition and withdrawal. A girl. Emma named her Lily. Lily. Michael's mother's name. The name Emma had always said she'd give her first daughter someday, back when she was 12, and planning a future that included college and travel and a family she'd build when she was ready. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Emma spent 2 weeks in the hospital after losing Lily, Marcus says, flipping a page in his notebook. When she was discharged, she had nowhere to go. She'd been living in shelters and occasionally on the street for 18 months by that point. A hospital social worker referred her to Harbor Hope. She arrived with nothing, no ID, no clothes, except what she was wearing. No money. She couldn't even remember the last time she'd eaten a real meal. Victoria closes her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she sees Emma at 6 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, covered in paint from an art project. Emma at 10, crying because the kids at school were mean about her glasses. Emma at 13, rolling her eyes at Victoria's lecture about responsibility, while Michael laughed and wrapped an arm around their daughter's shoulders. Emma at 16, screaming that Victoria cared more about her company than her own family, that she was glad Dad was dead, so he didn't have to see what Victoria had become. I don't remember what I said, Victoria whispers, opening her eyes. Left. Marcus, you asked if I remembered what I said, but I don't. I was drunk. I hadn't slept in 3 days because of the IPO launch, and Michael had only been gone 6 months, and Emma she was so angry all the time, and I didn't know how to help her, and her voice breaks completely. What did I say to her? Marcus looks at her for a long moment, and Victoria sees something shift in his expression. Not quite sympathy, but recognition of shared pain, like he's been where she is, standing in the wreckage of his own failures. You told her she was destroying your legacy, he says, quietly. That Michael built Chen Innovations with you, and you weren't going to let some ungrateful teenager ruin everything you'd worked for, that she was selfish and dramatic, and if she couldn't get herself together, maybe she should leave. The words land like physical blows. Victoria remembers. Now not the exact phrasing, but the rage, the exhaustion. The way Emma's face crumpled before hardening into something cold and distant. The way she walked to her room, packed a bag, and left without saying goodbye. The way Victoria let her go. Time to cool down and think about how good she had it. She didn't come back, Victoria says. And it's not a question. She didn't come back. Marcus confirms. And from what she's told me, she tried. 2 months after leaving, she showed up at your building. She made it as far as the lobby before the dullers. Your head of security stopped her. He said he had strict instructions that Emma Chen was not to be allowed on the premises, and he would call the police if she didn't leave immediately. Victoria's stomach drops. Richard. I told Richard. She stops, remembering. The morning after Emma left, furious and humiliated that her teenage daughter had the audacity to walk out on her. Victoria called building security and instructed them to deny Emma access. It was meant to teach her a lesson, to make her apologize, to force her to come crawling back ready to behave. Instead, it locked her out, permanently. Emma thought you hated her, Marcus says. Thought you meant every word you said that night. When your security guard turned her away, she took it as confirmation that you'd rather have no daughter than a disappointing one. She stopped trying after that. Victoria puts her head in her hands. Around them, the coffee shop continues its normal rhythm, conversations and laughter. The hiss of the espresso machine, someone's phone ringing, life going on while Victoria's ends. How did she survive? The question comes out muffled through her fingers. Not well. Marcus closes his bow. Notebook. She couch-surfed for a while, traded favors for places to sleep, took whatever work she could find under the table since she had no ID. She met Jake the boyfriend about 4 months in. He seemed safe at first. Older, established, offered her a place to stay, with no strings attached. By the time the strings appeared, she was already dependent on him. The pills. Started with prescription painkillers. She'd injured her wrist and needed something for the pain. Jake made sure the prescription kept getting refilled long after she needed it. Then, he started controlling when she could take them, using them as rewards or punishment. Classic manipulation tactic: get someone dependent, then control the supply. Victoria lifts her head. Where is he now? This Jake? Gone. He left when Emma told him she was pregnant, cleared out everything from the apartment they were sharing, and disappeared. Emma hasn't seen him since. She tried to stay in the apartment, but she couldn't make rent without him. That's when she ended up on the street. Victoria's daughter, who grew up in a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Common, who had a trust fund worth $50 million, who never had to worry about where her next meal came from, lived on the street. The pregnancy probably saved her life, Marcus continues. She was getting sicker, deeper into addiction, and pregnant women get access to resources others don't. A clinic connected her with a program for expectant mothers dealing with substance abuse. That's where she started getting clean. But withdrawal during pregnancy is complicated, dangerous. The stress, the malnutrition, the trauma, it all contributed to premature labor. And after she lost the baby, Marcus's expression softens. After Lily, Emma wanted to die. Spent 3 weeks barely eating, barely speaking. The counselors at Harbor Hope thought they might have to hospitalize her. But then, something shifted. She started participating in groups, started doing the work. She got clean, really clean. Time, not because someone was forcing her, but because she chose it. She's been sober for 8 months now, goes to meetings 3 times a week, works with a sponsor, does everything right. Why does she volunteer at the shelter? Victoria asks. If it's where she lost, if it reminds her of, because it's where people saw her, Marcus says simply. When Emma was at her lowest, when she'd lost everything, including her daughter, the women at Harbor Hope didn't judge her. They held her while she cried. They made sure she ate. They reminded her she was worth saving, even when she couldn't see it herself. She volunteers because she wants to give back, but also because it's the only place she's felt safe since her father died. Safe? Emma doesn't feel safe in the world, but she feels safe in a shelter where women sleep in shared rooms, and the building smells like industrial cleaner and desperation. What does she need? Victoria's voice is hoarse. How do I? You can't fix this with money, Marcus interrupts. That's the first thing you need to understand. Emma doesn't need your fortune or your connections or a job at your company. She needs a mother who shows up, who listens, who doesn't try to solve her problems or manage her recovery or turn her into a project to be optimized. I don't know how to do that. The admission costs Victoria everything. I don't know how to just be present without fixing things. That's not. I've spent 20 years building companies, solving problems, making things happen. I don't know how to just sit with someone's pain and not try to make it better. Then you learn, Marcus says flatly. Because that's what Emma needs. Someone who can sit with her in the dark without trying to turn on all the lights. Victoria looks down at her untouched coffee, at her reflection in the black surface. She looks old. She realizes. When did that happen? When did the lines around her eyes deepen? When did the gray start showing at her temples, despite her expensive colorist's best efforts? You said Emma knows your Anna. Background, she says, looking back up at Marcus. That you're a social worker. Why did you leave the field? Something flickers across Marcus's face. Old pain, carefully managed, but never fully healed. My wife was an addict. Opioids, like Emma. I spent 8 years trying to save her with everything I'd learned in my training, every technique and intervention and treatment program. I thought if I just tried hard enough, if I was just good enough at my job, I could fix her. What happened? She overdosed 3 years ago. Our daughter found her. Marcus's voice stays steady. But Victoria can hear the fractures underneath. I was at work, helping other people's families, and my wife died alone in our bathroom, while our 11-year-old daughter was in the next room, doing homework. So I left the field. Couldn't save my wife, couldn't protect my daughter from that trauma, figured I'd be more useful fixing broken toilets than broken people. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Learn from it. Marcus leans forward, his dark eyes intense. You can't save Emma from what happened to her. You can't go back and make different choices. You can't erase her pain or the loss of her daughter, or the 18 months she spent surviving things no one should have to survive. But you can choose to be different going forward. You can choose to be the mother she needed 3 years ago, starting today. The question is, can you? Victoria thinks about her calendar, packed with meetings, and calls and obligations that felt urgent an hour ago but seem meaningless now. She thinks about the Singapore deal, the merger documents, the board meeting scheduled for next week. She thinks about Chen Innovations and everything she built, the empire she constructed from nothing, the legacy she was so desperate to protect that she drove away the only person who actually mattered. Yes, she says finally. I can choose that. I want to choose that. But Marcus, I need you to tell me, does she hate me? Emma, does she hate me? Marcus considers the question for a long moment. No, he says, finally. She doesn't hate you. Hate would be simpler. She's hurt. She's angry. She's grieving the mother she needed and didn't have. Grieving the relationship you used to have before her dad got sick. But she doesn't hate you? If she did, she wouldn't have told me I could share her story if you showed up. She would have just told me to keep you away. So there's a chance. There's a chance, Marcus agrees. But Victoria, can I call you Victoria? She nods. Victoria, you need to understand that Emma's recovery is fragile. She's doing well now, but trauma doesn't heal on a predictable schedule. Seeing you today might set her back. She might have a panic attack or a breakdown, or decide she's not ready to deal with this and shut down completely. Are you prepared for that possibility? No. Victoria's honesty surprises even herself. But I'll show up anyway. I'll keep showing up, even if she's not ready, even if it takes years. I'll be there. Good. Marcus pulls a worn business card from his wallet and slides it across the table. It has his name and a phone number, nothing else. That's my cell. I'm going to talk to Emma tonight. Tell her you were at the shelter. Tell her you want to see her. Give her a few days to process. Then call me, and we'll figure out next steps. Maybe supervised visits at first, just being in the same room without talking. Maybe letters she can read when she's ready. We'll let her set the pace. Victoria takes the card, holds it like it's the most valuable thing she's ever been given. Thank you for protecting her, for being there when I wasn't. Marcus stands, shouldering his backpack. I didn't do it for you. I did it for her. Emma deserves people in her life who see her worth. Try to be one of them. He leaves without another word, weaving through the crowded coffee shop and disappearing into the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Victoria sits alone at the scratched table, Marcus's business card pressed between her palms, and lets herself cry for the first time since Michael's funeral. She cries for Emma, for the baby granddaughter she'll never meet, for 3 years of searching in all the wrong places when her daughter was right here. Building a life from ashes, she cries for Michael, who would be so disappointed in what she became after losing him. She cries for herself, for the mother she failed to be and the woman she needs to become. When the tears finally stop, Victoria pulls out her phone. She has 63 missed calls, over 200 emails, text messages from board members and executives all marked urgent. She ignores all of them. Instead, she opens her calendar and starts deleting. The Singapore call cancelled. The merger review postponed. The investor dinner. The board presentation. The product launch, and she was supposed to keynote. She clears her schedule for the next 2 weeks, watching years of carefully constructed obligations disappear with each tap of her finger. Her assistant will panic. The board will be furious. The stock might take another hit. Victoria doesn't care. She has a daughter to fight for, and this time, she's not going to fail. The first 2 days are the hardest. Victoria doesn't call Marcus. She wants to God how she wants to, but his instructions were clear. Give Emma time to process. So instead, Victoria does something she hasn't done in 3 years. She sits still, not in her office, with its view of the harbor and the constant hum of productivity. Not in the penthouse, where Emma's bedroom door stays closed, because Victoria can't bring herself to change anything inside. She sits in Murphy's coffee shop, the same corner table where Marcus told her the truth about what happened to her daughter, and she waits. The baristas start to recognize her by the second day. The girl with the nose ring and purple hair stops looking surprised when Victoria orders the same black coffee and sits for hours with her laptop closed, staring at nothing. On the third day, Victoria goes back to Harbor Hope. She doesn't announce herself, doesn't call ahead, or arrange a meeting with Carol. She just shows up at 9. In the morning when the shelter opens for the day, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual armor of designer suits. Her hair is pulled back in a ponytail. The first time she's worn it down from its professional chignon in years, and she's scrubbed her face free of the makeup. That usually shields her from the world. She looks ordinary. She looks like someone's mother. Carol does a double take when Victoria walks through the door. Mrs. Chen, I wasn't expecting. I'd like to volunteer. The words come out steadier than Victoria feels. If you'll have me, I can work in the donation room, the kitchen, wherever you need help. I'm not here as a donor today, just as someone who wants to help. A port-side bipive. Carol's expression shifts through confusion, suspicion, and finally, careful consideration. Most of our volunteers go through an orientation process. Background checks, training on trauma-informed care, boundaries with residents. I'll do whatever's required. Victoria keeps her voice level, her hands steady, even though her heart is hammering. I have time. I've cleared my schedule. Something in Carol's face softens. Maybe she sees desperation. Maybe she's connecting dots about what happened during Victoria's last visit. The confrontation with Marcus. The way Victoria looked at the girl folding clothes, like her world was ending. Orientation is Saturday morning, Carol says slowly. 8 to noon. Can you make that? Yes. And you understand. This is real work? Not a photo opportunity? Or something you can put in a press release? I understand. Carol studies her for another long moment, then nods. Saturday, then. Don't be late. Victoria leaves before she can catch a glimpse of Emma. That's not why she came. She came to start, showing up. To begin the long process of earning back trust, she shattered. Seeing Emma would be a gift she hasn't earned yet, but as she walks to her car, she drove herself today. No driver, no assistant hovering with her phone. Victoria allows herself a small spark of hope. It's fragile and frightening, this feeling that maybe things could be different. Maybe it's not too late. On Thursday, Victoria calls Marcus. I went to the shelter, she says when he answers. No hello, no preamble. Signed up for volunteer orientation on Saturday. I didn't try to see Emma. I just wanted you to. I know I'm following through. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Victoria can hear traffic sounds in the background, the distant shout of children playing. That's good, Marcus says finally. I talked to Emma, told her you were at the shelter on Monday, that you stayed, that you want to see her. Victoria's breath catches. And she didn't run. Didn't have a panic attack or shut down. She cried for a while, asked a lot of questions about what you said, what you did. Then she asked me if I thought you meant it, if I thought you'd actually keep showing up, or if this was just another performance. What did you tell her? I told her I didn't know. That you'd have to prove it with actions, not words. Marcus's tone is matter of fact. No judgment, just truth. She said she needs to think about it, that she's not ready to see you yet, but she might be ready to know. You're nearby, that you're trying. It's not a yes, but it's not a no either. Thank you, Victoria whispers. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be hard, Victoria. Harder than building your company, harder than any deal you've ever closed. There's no shortcut here, no way to speed through the commonize, uncomfortable parts. You have to sit in the mess and let Emma set the pace. I know. Do you? Marcus's question isn't challenging, just curious. Because the woman I met on Monday was used to controlling everything, used to making things happen through sheer force of will. That woman can't exist here? Can you let her go? Victoria thinks about her calendar, still mostly empty, about the emails from board members she's been ignoring, the calls from investors she hasn't returned, about the Singapore deal that's moving forward without her oversight because she told her team to handle it. The world didn't end when she stepped back. Chen Innovations didn't collapse. Someone else stepped up to lead the merger negotiations, and according to the brief update her COO sent, they're doing fine. Better than fine, actually. They're doing well. Maybe she was never as indispensable as she thought. I can let her go, Victoria says. I already have. Saturday morning orientation is brutal in ways Victoria didn't anticipate. There are 12 other volunteers in the training room, mostly women, a few men, ranging in age from college students to retirees. They sit in a circle of metal folding chairs, while a counselor named Teresa walks them through the realities of working with trauma survivors. Many of our residents have experienced severe abuse, Teresa says, her voice gentle but firm. Physical, emotional, sexual. They've been betrayed by people who were supposed to protect them. They've had their boundaries violated repeatedly. So when you work here, you have to be extremely conscious of how you show up. She talks about triggers and flashbacks, about the importance of asking before touching someone, about how something as simple as raising your voice can send someone spiraling. She talks about boundaries, how to maintain them, how to respect them, how to recognize when someone is testing them because they've never had healthy boundaries modeled before. You are not here to save anyone, Teresa says, making eye contact with each volunteer in turn. You are not here to fix their problems or rescue them from their circumstances. You are here to show up consistently, to be trustworthy, to demonstrate that not everyone will abandon them when things get hard. Victoria feels those words land in her chest like stones. They practice scenarios. What do you do if a resident has a panic attack? What do you say if someone asks you for money? How do you respond if a resident gets angry with you, if they lash out or push you away? You stay calm, Teresa instructs. You don't take it personally. You maintain your boundaries while also showing them that their anger doesn't scare you away. You prove, through your actions, that you're safe, that you're not going to abandon them just because they're not performing gratitude or happiness. After lunch, donated sandwiches that the volunteers eat together, making awkward small talk. They tour the facility properly. Not the sanitized version Carol showed potential donors, but the real shelter. They see the sleeping quarters where women share rooms with strangers, where privacy is a luxury and safety is never guaranteed. They see the bathroom schedule posted on the wall, because there aren't enough showers for everyone to use whenever they want. They see the daycare where mothers can leave their children while they attend job interviews or counseling sessions. A room filled with secondhand toys and workers who look exhausted but determined. This is where Emma lives, Victoria realizes, standing in the doorway of a shared bedroom that houses 6 women. 6 narrow beds, 6 small lockers, 1 window. This is where her daughter sleeps at night, where she keeps whatever few possessions she has. The girl who grew up in a bedroom bigger than this entire space, who had a walk-in closet and an ensuite bathroom and a view of Boston Common, who never had to share anything unless she wanted to. Mrs. Chen? Teresa appears beside her. You okay? Victoria nods, not trusting her voice. She's not okay. She'll never be okay again. But she can function, which is all that matters. They spend the afternoon learning practical skills. How to properly sort donations so they're useful instead of just adding to the clutter. How to set up for meal service. Basic food safety protocols. How to interact with children who might be acting out because of trauma. How to be present without being intrusive. By the time the orientation ends at 4 o'clock, Victoria is exhausted. Not physically, though. Standing for hours is harder than she remembered, but emotionally. She feels scraped raw, like every defense she's built over the past 3 years has been stripped away. You did well today. Carol catches her on the way out. I wasn't sure you'd make it through the whole session. Why wouldn't I? Carol gives her a knowing look. Because you're Victoria Chen. Because you're used to being in charge, having answers, making things happen. This work requires the opposite of that. It requires showing up and being useful in very small, unglamorous ways. A lot of people from your world can't handle it. I'm not most people from my world. Victoria surprises herself with the steel in her voice. I'll be here Tuesday morning. What time? Does the breakfast shift start? 6:30. I'll be here at 6. Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria develops a routine. She wakes at 5. Something her assistant would find shocking, since Victoria typically rolled into the office around 9 after her personal trainer and her espresso. She drives herself to Harbor Hope. No driver, no town car, just her in her practical Honda, that she bought specifically because it doesn't scream billionaire CEO, and arrives by 6 to help with breakfast prep. The kitchen crew gets used to her quickly. There's Rosa, who's been cooking at the shelter for 6 years and runs her domain with the efficiency of a 4-star restaurant chef. There's Brandon, a 19-year-old volunteer doing community service hours who's surprisingly good at making industrial quantities of pancakes. And there's Margaret, a former resident who graduated from the program 2 years ago and came back to give back, who watches Victoria with suspicious eyes for the first week before slowly, grudgingly warming up. Victoria learns to cook for 100 people. Not the kind of cooking she used to do in her designer kitchen, following complicated recipes for dinner parties that were really networking events. This is industrial cooking: eggs, scrambled in massive batches, toast by the loaf, oatmeal in pots big enough to bathe in. She burns things. She messes up proportions. She cuts her finger, slicing vegetables, and has to wear a stupid pink bandage that Margaret applies with rough efficiency and the ghost of a smile. "You're not terrible at this," Rosa tells her one morning, which Victoria recognizes as high praise. After breakfast service, Victoria helps with cleanup, then moves to whatever area needs volunteers that day. Sometimes it's sorting donations, methodically organizing clothes by size and season, checking for damage, deciding what's usable and what isn't. Sometimes it's childcare, playing with toddlers while their mothers attend GED classes or job training or counseling sessions. Sometimes it's administrative work, filing papers or updating resident records under Carol's supervision. The work is boring. It's repetitive. It's the opposite of everything Victoria spent 20 years doing. She loves it, because 4 days into her second week, she finally sees Emma again. It happens in the donation room. Victoria is sorting through a box of winter coats, checking pockets and zippers. When she hears voices approaching, she recognizes Marcus's low tone immediately. And then Emma's voice, lighter than Victoria remembers, but with the same slight upturn at the end of sentences that used to make everything she said sound like a question. Victoria's hands freeze on the coat she's holding. Her heart hammers so hard she's certain everyone in the building can hear it. "Told her about the job fair next week," Emma is saying. "I think she's actually going to go this time. Last month she was too scared, but she's been practicing her interview skills," and they round the corner into the donation room. Marcus sees Victoria first. He doesn't react, doesn't say anything, just keeps walking. But Emma follows his gaze, and her words die mid-sentence. She stops walking. Her face goes pale, then flushed. Her hands clutch the clipboard she's carrying so hard, her knuckles turn white. Victoria sets down the coat very carefully and stands. She doesn't move toward Emma, doesn't speak, just looks at her daughter, really looks at her for the first time in 3 years, 2 months, and 24 days. Emma is thinner than Victoria remembered, but she looks healthier than she did 2 weeks ago. There's color in her cheeks now. Her hair is clean, pulled back in a neat braid instead of that messy ponytail. She wears jeans that actually fit and a sweater that might be new. And, For just a moment, Victoria wonders if Marcus bought it for her. If this man, who's known her daughter for 18 months, has done things Victoria should have been doing. Hi. The word comes out of Victoria's mouth before she can stop it. Quiet and uncertain, Emma stares at her. Her eyes. Michael's eyes, that same warm brown that Victoria used to get lost in, are wide and full of emotions Victoria can't name. Fear? Maybe. Anger? Definitely. But underneath that, something else. Something that might be hope if Victoria's not imagining it. You're here, Emma whispers. I'm Sebelu. Here. Why? It's such a simple question. But Victoria knows the weight it carries. Why now? Why here? Why do you care suddenly when you didn't care before? Because I was wrong. Victoria's voice shakes but doesn't break. About everything. About what mattered. About how to love someone. About, I was so wrong, Emma, and I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Emma's eyes fill with tears. She blinks rapidly, trying to hold them back, but they spill over anyway, running down her cheeks in tracks. Victoria wants to wipe away, but knows she can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You told Richard not to let me in, Emma says, and her voice is small and broken and young. I tried to come home, and you'd told him to keep me out. I know. Victoria's own tears come now, unstoppable. I know, baby. I was so angry and so stupid, and I thought you'd come back apologizing. And when you didn't, I was too proud to admit I was wrong. I should have been looking for you every second. I should have never let you leave in the first place. I should have. Stop. Marcus's voice cuts through Victoria's words. He puts a hand on Emma's shoulder, protective, steadying. Emma, you don't have to. Stay here. We can go. You don't owe her this conversation. But Emma shakes her head. She wipes at her face with the back of her hand, that gesture so familiar it makes Victoria's chest ache. No. I need to know. Mom, are you actually staying? Or is this just another thing you'll do for a few weeks until you get bored? Or the company needs you? Or something more important comes up? Nothing is more important than you. Victoria says it with every ounce of conviction she has. I've cleared my calendar. I'm not going back to running Chen Innovations full-time. I'm here, Emma, for as long as you'll let me be. Even if you never want to talk to me again. Even if you just need to know I'm nearby. I'm here. Emma stares at her for a long moment. Then she looks up at Marcus. They have some kind of silent conversation. The kind that happens between people who've been through things, together, who trust each other completely. Give us the room, Emma says quietly. Marcus hesitates. Are you sure? I'm sure. He squeezes Emma's shoulder once, shoots Victoria a look that clearly says, don't screw this up, and leaves. His footsteps echo down the hallway until they fade, completely. And then it's just Victoria and Emma, in a room full of donated clothes and 3 years of unspoken words. I lost my baby. Emma's voice is flat, emotionless, like she's reporting facts, instead of the worst thing that ever happened to her. Did Marcus tell you that? Yes. Her name was Lily, after Dad's mom. I know. I held her for 3 hours before they took her away. She was so small, so perfect. She had Dad's nose, and Emma's voice cracks. She had his nose, and I couldn't keep her alive. I couldn't even do that right. Victoria takes a step forward, without thinking. Emma doesn't move back, which feels like a miracle. It wasn't your fault, baby. It wasn't. Don't call me baby. Emma's voice turns sharp. You don't get to call me that anymore. You don't get to call me anything until you've earned it. The words hit like a slap, but Victoria nods. You're right. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing and just... Emma wraps her arms around herself, looking so small and lost that Victoria physically aches with the need to hold her. Just tell me why. Why did you let me go so easily? Why didn't you fight for me? Because I was broken too. The truth spills out of Victoria like blood from a wound. When your dad died, something in me just stopped. I didn't know how to be a person anymore, so I became a CEO instead. I threw myself into work because work had clear goals and measurable outcomes, and I could control it. But you were grieving and angry and unpredictable, and I didn't know how to help you, so I just didn't. I let you down in every possible way, and when you left, I told myself it was your choice, that you walked away from me, but I pushed you out first, didn't I? I pushed you out, long before you actually left. Emma is crying openly now, not bothering to wipe the tears away. I needed you. After Dad died, I needed you so much, and you just weren't there. You were physically there, but you weren't actually there, and I felt so alone, and I didn't know how to tell you that without making you angry. I'm so sorry. Victoria's hands shake with the effort of not reaching for her daughter. I'm so sorry, Em. You deserved so much better. You deserved a mother who showed up, who saw your pain, who put you first. You deserved everything, and I gave you nothing. They stand there in silence for a moment, both crying, both breaking open in this room full of other people's cast-off lives. I don't know if I can forgive you, Emma finally says. I want to. I'm so tired of being angry. But I don't know how to trust that you won't leave again when things get hard or when I'm not the daughter you want me to be. I don't know how to prove it to you except by staying. Victoria wipes at her face with her sleeve. I can't change the past. I can't give you back the 3 years we lost, or the nights you spent on the street, or Lily. I can't fix any of that. But I can show up now. I can be here. I can do the work to become the mother you deserved all along. That's all I have to offer. Just the promise that I'll keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when you push me away, even when I mess up, because I will mess up. I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to try anyway. Emma studies her mother's face for a long moment. Victoria lets herself be seen, really seen, maybe for the first time in years. No makeup to hide behind, no professional mask, no pretending she has everything together, just a broken woman begging for a chance to be better. I have a therapy appointment on Thursday afternoons, Emma says slowly. At 3. Sometimes I get anxious before them, and I could use someone to walk with me. To just be there. Even if we don't talk, could you do that? Victoria's heart nearly stops. Yes, of course. I'll be here. With you wherever you need to go. Okay. Emma's voice is barely a whisper. Okay. Thursday then. She turns to leave, then stops in the doorway. Mom? Yes? Don't break this promise. Please. I can't survive you. Leaving again. I won't leave. Victoria says it like a vow, like a prayer, like the most important words she's ever spoken. I promise, Emma. I won't leave. I won't leave. Emma nods once and disappears down the hallway, leaving Victoria alone with boxes of donated coats and the fragile, terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, she's been given a chance at redemption. She doesn't deserve, but will fight like hell to earn. Thursday comes both too fast and too slow. Victoria arrives at Harbor Hope at 2:30. Even though Emma's appointment isn't until 3, she sits in the common room, pretending to read a donated magazine while her heart hammers against her ribs. At 2:55, Emma appears. She's wearing that same sweater, her hair in a braid, a worn backpack slung over one shoulder. She spots Victoria immediately and freezes for just a moment before walking over. "Ready?" Victoria asks, keeping her voice neutral, casual, like this isn't the to haven, most important walk she'll ever take. Yeah. They leave the shelter together. Victoria doesn't try to fill the silence with chatter, or ask questions, or do anything except be present. They walk side by side down the street, their pace matching naturally, the way it used to, when Emma was small and would slip her hand into Victoria's without being asked. The therapy office is only 3 blocks away. When they arrive, Emma stops on the sidewalk outside. "You'll wait?" she asks, and she sounds so young, so unsure. "I'll wait, right here. I'm not going anywhere." Emma searches her mother's face, looking for the lie, the excuse, the moment Victoria will prioritize something else. But Victoria just stands there, steady and present, and meaning every word. "Okay," Emma says finally. "I'll be about an hour. Take all the time you need." Victoria watches her daughter disappear through the door, then sits on a bench outside. She pulls out her phone, a dozen missed calls, 50 emails, all of them marked urgent, and turns it off completely. An hour later, Emma emerges. Her eyes are red like she's been crying, but her shoulders are a little less tense. She sees Victoria still, sitting on the bench, and something in her expression shifts. "You actually stayed?" she says. "I said I would." They walk back to the shelter in silence. When they reach the door, Emma hesitates. "Same time next week?" she asks. "Same time next week," Victoria confirms. Emma nods, then does, something that makes Victoria's breath catch. She squeezes her mother's hand, just once, barely a touch, before letting go and heading inside. But it's enough. It's everything. Victoria drives home not to the penthouse, which still feels too big and empty, but to Murphy's coffee shop, where she sits at her usual table and cries into her terrible coffee, while the girl with purple hair pretends not to notice. She has a long way to go. Emma might never fully forgive her. They might never have the relationship they once did. They might never be close the way mothers and daughters in movies are. Close. But Victoria walked her daughter to therapy, and she waited, and Emma let her. It's the smallest possible beginning, but it's a beginning. And Victoria Chen, who built empires and closed billion-dollar deals and spent 3 years searching desperately for her missing child, is learning that sometimes the most important work you do is the kind that looks like nothing at all from the outside. Sometimes it's just showing up, just being there, just proving, day after day, that you meant what you said. Sometimes love looks like waiting on a bench outside a therapy office while your daughter does the hard work of healing. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and you keep showing up even when it's hard, your daughter reaches for your hand, even if it's just for a second, even if you don't deserve it yet. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.